Wonderful that you were willing to take some time to talk about your projects.
Mm.
And over the last year, you've invited me as a co-facilitator on this leadership development program that you have done for years, actually, for your client. And I must say, I've really admired how you've managed to bring this program, which is several month long program, I think, how you've managed to bring that from the face-to-face setting into the online setting. So that's why I want to talk to you about that today.
Hey, good. Well, I'm happy to be here. It's a 9-month program, and yes, it was a challenge, but I'm looking forward to talking about it and sharing some of the experiences, learns, tips.
Yeah, wonderful. And of course, at Nomadic, we've been, for many years, we've been specializing in live online training. And what we see is that since COVID, of course, a lot of people have shifted, their programs to online training. A lot of people are struggling with creating the same impact as in a face-to-face setting. We've seen a lot of people come with a mindset that, well, we need to go online because of the travel restrictions, but it's never really as good as face-to-face. And I wish we could go back to the face-to-face setting soon. But what I've seen, the glimpse that I've seen from your program, is that you've really managed to create something that is as engaging, as participative, and even with the same impact as a face-to-face.
Yes. Well, that was the intention, exactly. If we go back, and I think it was April 2019, of course, within a week, everything stopped. For all of us, everything stopped. And for us that work face-to-face, everything was cancelled. And I think that was the first shock and the first learn, was to think about, how can we do this? How can we everybody is at home, basically working from home offices. How can we really engage and do this virtually? And one of the first, for us and for me, one of the first challenges was to work with organizations to encourage them to do something. I don't know how it was for you, but what I had recognized is that everything stopped. Leadership development stopped. I think there was a feeling of, we'll come back to that next year when this is over. So it was really, one of the first tips is to really work with your client to build their confidence, to allow them to understand, how can we make this work? Do something. Having leaders just reading and perhaps coming on to the odd meeting isn't going to develop talent. So that was one of the first challenges. And of course, what's helpful is to be able to work with an organization that has an open mind for that. It truly believes in finding ways to innovate and engage. So one of the first mindset changes was to take what was, so as I say, the program was 9 months long. Usually the format would be 3 face-to-face, 5-day face-to-face intensive face-to-face programs. And that would be linked by web. So we were already linking with webs in between. I'll come back to that point. But I started to think, it's not enough just to transfer the chunk of learning and the methodology online. So one of the first major changes was to really break it down into segments. What are the segments of learning? So the first step was to break that down into modules that are 2 hour long. So as an example, a 5-6 day program face-to-face became 8 2-hour webs, interlinked with pre-work. And with the pre-work would include challenges, individual reading, papers, YouTube clips, in preparation for that 2 hour segment of learning. So that was major change in terms of chunking it down.
And what I've seen a lot of business schools do is, when they go online, just put in a lot of content, and people miss the element of playfulness, relationship building, camaraderie that happens in a group like this of young high potentials, right? In
Yes.
this organization. And what I saw when I was invited as your co-facilitator is that there really was this bonding and camaraderie. How did you manage to create that?
Well, a couple of things. So again, as we were thinking about transferring this and down into 2-hour segments, and a lot of this I learned from you, I must say, so thank you, is to get that engagement. How can we use the technology, or actually dial down the technology, dial up the engagement? So a couple of things was, and there's a lot of design in this, use what's there. There were a lot of apps that were coming out, a lot of tools, a lot of
Can you give some examples?
I can give some examples. Mural is something we use a lot. Breakout groups, Kahoot, quizzes, polls, anything. Get people to use the chat. One of the guiding principles, I'm going to call it, is cameras on. There was a habit initially for participants to, one, have the camera off, and two, mute. Well, we can say immediately that if we can't speak and we can't see each other, there's not going to be engagement. So this is a guiding principle, and it would take time to draw people in, build trust, and engage them, have a conversation, join 15 minutes early, and let's all bring a coffee, have a chat, let's break the ice, and then find ways. So there is a lot more design in this of being able to make the learning exciting. What's going to happen today?
One thing I remember is one of the sessions where I co-facilitated was that participants showed a video clip of their hometown, if I remember correctly. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, a big element. So we have the learning slots. Running parallel to that, what we wanted to do was to really build the social. So although we're far apart and we're around the world, how can we really enjoy our diversity? How can we be truly inclusive? How can we, from our rooms, think about building the social? We know that trust, respect, social is important. So there was a very important social aspect that we usually, of course, when we're face to face, we go to the bar, have a meal, get to know each other. So why not do that online? We spent a lot of time putting a social element together. One that you mentioned was my hometown. We invited participants to go out and about. Even in lockdown, we could go for walks. Take your phone. So we don't encourage people not to bring phones to meetings. We encourage them to bring the technology. Nice. Film your hometown. Tell us stories. Tell us the history. Tell us your culture. So we could be in the world. And it was wonderful. I got to say, the participants went above and beyond what was expected. Truly engaging and great fun. People were sharing food and history and culture and dance. Very nice.
What a lovely thing to do. And I even remember being invited for a couple of yoga sessions, and with the participant group, and attending those with Hazel. And did you do anything else like that?
Yes. Yeah. So this social, what we would do every 4 weeks, we would have a social. So the social, as I said, I mentioned my hometowns. We had a chef join us and a live DJ, and we had a cooking evening, which was great fun. And all had a few glasses of wine, met the family. We all set up in our kitchen. And as I said, we have a chef teaching us some knife skills, and very nice. We also have an artist. So we all had 2 Thursdays where we did a collaborative art piece, actually, an installation from around the world, which I had never done any art before. We had an artist, as I say, I didn't lead that. But we created something really special, and we're hoping that will be installed in the headquarters of the client. But we did fitness. Every Thursday was fitness. We had a fitness instructor join us. Every Tuesday was yoga. We had a quiz, but we had a quiz master. For the socials, it's really about ramping up, if you like, for me, I felt we had to do a little bit of theatre. So it felt we were going somewhere. It was really did build those relationships.
I think you've been cutting edge in how you design and deliver this. One thing I remember from the previous program, so you always you told me about the closing event of the 9-month journey, where a lot of people from head office were involved, even some board members. How did that happen online?
We had to give that a lot of thought. We know as we develop leaders, a big or important competence is being able to perform under pressure, be able to exercise that performance muscle. And that was always the end event. So in the program I'm talking about, the participants had been in teams and working really hard on international projects. So this end event was always where we would go to HQ and present to the executive board, and they would ask questions. It was always very intense. How could we do that? How could we do that virtually? Well, what we decided to do was to bring everything that we had learned into a closing event. It was a global event, so we had 160 people. The plus, of course, virtual is you could have way more people join in from around the world. And participants so we gave them a lot of presentation training, but it was very much they had already learned on the program, but putting everything into place. We also added the social, so we added everything that we had learned around yoga stretches, and it was an event that the participants owned. We designed together and they delivered this on board with yoga stretches. We had music, we had a live DJ to open it. We made, again, it's that theatre. I think when we're communicating, we need to inform, we need to educate, and we need to motivate. We need to engage in a way that's exciting. So we dialed up that excitement.
If I hear, creating a closing event with 160 people from all around the world with executives, I'm thinking, oh, technology. How did you manage the technology and keep yourself comfortable?
Well, so this is my biggest tip here, and that is to dial down technology and dial up engagement. Use a producer. It's not by chance that online learning and development is engaging. It's through hard work, it's through design, it's through innovation, it's through creativity, and you've got somebody very smart who knows the technology. So I always want to work with producers who I know, who I can trust, and feel that I'm in safe hands, because then I can concentrate on engagement and delivery. And that reminds me of another tip, and that is that as facilitators, we need to be facilitators who are high on empathy, who can really read body language and have presence online. So sometimes the team is slightly different than it may have been face to face. It's not everybody's choice.
It is a different skill set as a facilitator. Yeah. And speaking of the end event, it's a lot of effort. It's 9 months, a lot of time, and an investment from the organization. So how would you describe, in the end, the impact of the journey on the participants and on the organization?
Well, at the end of the day, that's the most important. We had a wonderful experience. When I say wonderful, hard work, the participants is intense. It really is an intensity that builds. It's a process. And what's important is that there's learning and development. So we also supported the program with online peer coaching, so people could support each other when we were offline, if you like. Each participant would have an internal coach. And I would also, and my team would work as a coach and also give team coaching. Now, we found ways. What we find works is if you can work with an organization who give real projects, not projects that are, oh, have a go at this, real demanding projects. They are the projects that are the outcome. There's the success, and there's that feeling of success, because these projects hit the bottom line. If they get these projects, which are hard and challenging and strategic, when they've worked on them and they're delivering to the board, and the board can see that this can impact and in fact change the future, it's done. And the feeling of success for the participants is amazing. And as they look back, they realize that they've moved from tactical to strategic. And that's the big development step.
And did the board actually decide to sponsor any of these projects?
In most cases,
Oh.
In most cases, some are still being decided, but in most cases, you know, the funny thing, I say funny, but as surprising, I'm not even sure if it's surprising. The wonderful thing about the moving from face-to-face to online and to virtual was we didn't know. So it was a leap of faith. This year, all 4 projects were successful. It was a really positive outcome, and the development for the 22 participants was a big lift. And of course, the added part of this is that 22 leaders have also learned how to collaborate globally, how to engage, how to lead virtually. And so that's an added learn as well.
That's an amazing outcome, and I want to congratulate on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very pleased. And actually, we're kicking off another program as we speak. So here we go again.
This afternoon. Yes.
This afternoon, yes.
Speaking of which, just maybe one more question, because I'm really curious. Now that COVID is easing a little bit, at least the restrictions, do you see this program, going back to face, or is going to be purely online or a hybrid model? What are your?
It will be a hybrid model.
Hybrid model.
We have learned so much. At the moment, what we think it looks like is that we will have the first seminar. So usually that's face-to-face 5 days, but that will be over the next 3 months, and that will be virtual. And that will stay that way. We now know that we can set up for high performance virtually, and we can create those relationships. We think perhaps we might have some face-to-face in seminar too. Who knows? However, if we don't, we're ready, because we know we can do this virtually. Moving on, my mind is already thinking about, actually, how do we integrate? How can we do hybrid? How are we, as we go through the next 18 months, and some countries might be able to travel, some not, what can we learn and how can we take it to the next level? So I don't know what the best practice is right now. I have a few ideas, but we're working on it, and I'll keep you posted.
It sounds like as facilitators, we need to be good at both things, face delivery and online facilitation. And to use the complementarity in a smart way.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And find ways to keep that interactive, engaging, and energetic.
Yeah, wonderful. I feel really inspired by your work and your story. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'd like to just say thank you. I'm very nice to hear that you were impressed, and I'm delighted to be invited today, and it couldn't have been a better day, because off we go again this afternoon, and you've now energized me for the day.
Good. Have a great session this afternoon with the new group.
Thank you.